Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going over the new hotfix for March 5th, which includes updates to the pearlescent drop rates and quality of life updates to the content released in the bounty pack 2. Me going over everything you need to know. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's do this. So to start us off, they updated the pearlescent Eigenburst to drop at its intended rate. If you weren't aware, the Eigenburst shotgun was dropping at around 7 times more often than the other Pearl Sniper. So it was very common, and the sniper was relatively rare to see. They also changed the scaling on press and drops in Ultimate Vault Hunter levels. So basically, the higher UVH level you were on, the more likely you were to see pearls. They said that we've adjusted how often pearlescent gear appears at higher Ultimate Vault Hunter levels to meet our goals for this top tier rarity. The starting drop chance remains the same, but the way it scales as you level has been tuned. So basically, going up to higher UVH levels does increase the chance of you seeing a pearl, but it doesn't increase your chance as much of seeing a pearl. They also, this is a big one, standardized dedicated loot reward chances across all bosses in the base game, bounty packs, and invincible encounters. Dev note, with a new rarity now appearing in the wild, we've updated how bosses drop their loot to make things simpler. Bosses in the base game, including invincibles and all bounty packs, now use the same drop rate for their dedicated items. This change does not impact phosphine drop rates. We're happy to bring this update to your loot hunt. So if you weren't aware, there was a system in place in Borderlands 4 that tiered the loot differently. So there was a tertiary loot that would drop at 3%, there was secondary loot that would drop at 6%, and there was primary loot which would drop at 9%. This means that different pieces of gear would be harder to acquire than others, and seemingly for no reason. Like, you had some of the worst loot in the game dropping at 3%, some of the best loot in the game dropping at 9%. This was too low of a drop rate. Dedicated drop rates were tough, especially with important pieces of gear like the bot at a 3% rate. And so they added a UVH scaler, but they scaled the things from their base drop rate. So if you were a primary drop, you were dropping at 21%. If you were a tertiary drop, you were dropping at 9%. And if you were a secondary drop, you were dropping at 15%. And this was a big improvement, but it was still kind of confusing, especially if you weren't aware of this system. You might be farming a piece of gear and seeing what you don't want all the time and still seeing what you do want at like a 9% drop rate. And so basically they've standardized everything to be a flat drop rate that still scales with UVH level. So I've heard now from K6 and Epic NNG that the new drop rates are 9% base scaling with UVH level. That means that everything at UVH 6 is a 21% drop rate, and while you're going through the campaign, they're like a 9% drop rate, basically. So it rewards your difficulty, but this is also not only great for farming, because you're going to be able to just understand it better. Everything that you want is going to drop at the same rate, but it's also a huge buff to certain pieces of gear that you might want to farm. So if you're, for example, farming a AC May that was 9% yesterday, now it's a 21% drop rate. So farming should feel a whole lot better. This does not change the shiny drop rates. Those are unchanged. But this is super important that they did this because we're going to be getting a level cap increase, I'm assuming, this month, which means everyone's going to need to go out and farm their weapons again, and this should make farming feel way better. The reason they needed to up drop rates, in my opinion, was because of the part system. Part system is transformative to certain weapons, and it's really prohibitive trying to farm certain parts on a piece of gear with tons of different combos at a 3% rate. So now everything is 21%, and I think this is a great change for farming. They also reduced the health of all Ordinite enemies spawned clones by 25%. The final boss has been unchanged. Basically, when you got one of these Ordinite enemies to pop out, a lot of times they'd spawn a few replicas that had like triple health bars and would chase you down. Those are now easier to take out. The boss didn't change in its health. And they also made Ordinite canisters now have more weight to them to create a softer flight and landing. We will also have added extra glow to make these easier to see. That's a great change. I maybe an outlier, but I really like the Ordinate event. It's chaotic. There's a lot going on, and it feels challenging and rewarding to like put together a good build to complete it in time. And so I think it's kind of like needed endgame mobbing content. I do have an issue with the Ordinate canisters, but hopefully this makes it feel better to do. If people are still having a ton of issues like collecting these canisters and finding them, maybe they might need to make more changes, like put them on the mini map would be nice, but we'll see how that works out. And then we get to weekly activities, which I'll talk about in a second. I do want to talk about some Pearl stuff real quick. I made a video the other day talking about where I think the devs went wrong with their implementation of Pearls. And since then, in that video, a lot of the times I was saying that like they needed to make the base Pearls feel better because a Pearl with the right weapon parts does feel pretty good, but there's like a big difference between getting a Pearl with the right weapon parts and a Pearl that just kind of like is a normal drop. Because right now, in my opinion, a basic Pearl drop doesn't feel all that powerful. And now I've learned that there is another reason behind that. So aside from like part variance on a Pearl weapon, this applies to all of them, by the way. I'm going to show off the hand cannon, but this literally affects all of them. Besides from actual part variance, the amount of damage variance that these weapons can roll is absolutely absurd. I don't think there's any weapons in the game like it. For example, this is a pic that Ancient Rune posted of a Pearl pistol, level 50, that rolled 2.9k base damage, right? I have one. He posted another one that was like 6.9k, I think. I have one that's 7.6k. That is like almost around like 3 times damage from 2 to 7. That's just ridiculous. There's no world where a weapon that is supposed to be as rare as possible should roll with as much variance as these things do. Because not only do they massively roll a different amounts of like damage variance, but they also have access to all of the parts, plus they roll random overrides, and they can also roll all elemental. And so basically, like farming these things, I've been advocating for Pearls to be rare. I think it's silly that they should be 100% chance. But I tweeted out the other day that this just like can't be a thing. You can't have an item be as rare as Pearls are supposed to be, or they are going to be today, and also have this amount of part variance. Basically, I said that Pearls currently have way more part variance than even legendaries. Not only can all 3 Pearls roll massively different damage amounts, up to double damage, but they can also roll 2 licensed parts plus the override. What this means is you might need to drop 100 plus of the same Pearl just to get a good one. This ruins the magic because it also means tons of Pearl drops will be bad, and also by the time you get a good one, you'll basically be numb to the Pearl drop because you've seen it so much already. Loot was ruined in Borderlands 3 on launch with this exact same system with non-rerollable annoyance. So how does Gearbox fix this? Along with the upcoming changes to Pearls, please implement curated rolls. If the damage roll range on the pistol ranges from 2k to 6.5k damage, change it to only drop at 6 to 6.5k damage. Also, you could make it get roll with 1 guaranteed part. For example, the Eigenburst could always roll with Ripper, Hand Cannon and Conflux always with Jacob, and then still let them get 1 random part, or at the very least, they always roll with 2 licensed parts because they currently roll from 0 to 2. So you need to roll the right licensed parts, but you also need to roll 2 licensed parts, and you can roll 0. It's just like the implementation of Pearls have been a big miss from almost every aspect, and so like they wanted to make something that makes Pearls different than legendaries. Legendaries currently roll all sorts of variants. These Pearls don't need a random gimmick. Their gimmick could just be that they are like a set roll. Make them super rare, make their damage variance very small, make them be able to roll different elements, and maybe 1 random part. But the fact that there's so much variance in these means that like in order to get a good one, I mean, getting a good one is basically impossible. It's just, it shouldn't exist like this. And so I think they made one thing more special about Pearls today, which is their low drop rates. But the fact that they have so much variance means that when you get one, instead of being like, oh my God, I got a pearl, this is awesome, it's going to be great, you have a very, very small chance for it actually to be a good one. And the tough thing about them right now is the good ones, if you get a good roll, are some of the strongest weapons in the game. Like, genuinely, I've now been given a few pearls with like really high damage rolls and good drops. I've been farming them for like a week, and I haven't gotten any great ones myself. But like, the damage of them on a good roll is ridiculous. And the damage on a bad one is like, just terrible. And so I really hope that they fix this. They just maybe should all drop at the highest damage value. That would be a big change. There just shouldn't be so much variance. Vile Prototype drops the Rangefinder, the Heavyweight, and the King's Gambit. All of those are not great items. The Heavyweight is a decent shield for a melee build. If you want to look for one, you can get like bladed augment rolls on it to get even more melee damage. I believe the weekly wildcard mission is the Primordial Vault. Oh, that's cool. For the Affinity XXL flat-off sniper rifle. Pretty good sniper on Vex. And then we've got Maurice's Black Market Vending Machine. The location of Maurice's Black Market Vending Machine, you're going to want to travel to the Sumpview Falls in the Fades District in Dominion. Just head south, and you'll find this kind of road that leads from the safe house. And instead of going down this ramp, take a right, and then just go down this path here. Turn right, and you will find Maurice's Black Market Vending Machine. I currently have the Lumberjack and the Symmetry in mine. Symmetry's not bad. Not a fan of Lumberjack. Your week will be different, but that is where Maurice is. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Bye.